measure of man is for those who rise, bleed, and keep swinging. We speak to the warrior in you, the one who won't quit. Not comfort, character, mindset, grit, real manhood. This is where men win. Now today's story. Mr. Musk, a girl's voice called from behind him, gentle but steady. Elon turned. He had just finished speaking with a group of doctors during his visit to a children's hospital, one of many stops he made through his philanthropic outreach. Usually, these visits involved a few photos, some small talk, and encouraging words. But this time, something about that voice made him pause. She was maybe 8 years old, dressed in a simple pink hoodie and jeans, standing near the edge of the hallway. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her, eyes fixed on him, not with awe, but curiosity. "I have a question," she said again. Elon smiled. "Of course, what's your question?" She didn't hesitate. "What do you think happens when we die?" The hallway went silent. A nurse passing by slowed, as if sensing the weight in the air. Elon blinked, caught completely off guard. Not because he didn't expect a question, kids always asked questions, but because of what this one was. Death from a child. He crouched slowly, meeting her gaze. "That's a really big question," he said carefully. "I know," she said, "but I think about it a lot." He looked at her face. There was no fear, just curiosity. She had probably asked others, maybe her parents, maybe nurses. Maybe no one gave her an answer that felt right. "I don't have all the answers," Elon began, "but I'll tell you what I think." She nodded, listening. "I think we're all part of something greater," he said. "When we die, maybe we return to that. The stars, the earth, the energy that keeps everything moving. Like, we become space dust?" she asked, tilting her head. He chuckled gently. "Sort of. Stardust, maybe." She narrowed her eyes. "But what if there's more?" Elon paused. He could feel other people in the hallway glancing over, but none of that mattered. This moment felt sacred. "What if there's a God?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Elon's breath caught slightly. "That's something people have asked for thousands of years. What do you think?" "I think," he said slowly, "that a lot of people believe in God. Some don't, and some believe in science. Some believe in both." "But you," she pressed, "do you?" He hesitated. He didn't want to lie, but he didn't want to shatter her either. "I think it's okay not to be sure," he said. "And I think asking that question is already a big step." She looked down at her shoes. "Sometimes I'm scared. What if there's nothing?" He felt a weight settle on his chest. "Being scared is normal," he said softly. "Even grown-ups get scared. But the fear doesn't mean the end. It means you care. It means you're searching." The girl looked up at him, eyes glassy with forming tears. "But what if I never find out?" He reached out gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then keep looking, keep asking. Sometimes the search teaches us more than the answer ever could." She nodded, and a tear slipped down her cheek. "It's okay to cry," he whispered. "Really it is." And she did. Quiet, unashamed tears that carried questions too heavy for someone her age. And yet, she carried them. Elon stayed with her until the tears slowed. He didn't say much, just stayed. Then she looked at him and said, "Thank you." And he knew it wasn't just for the answer, it was for listening. That night, Elon couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing her voice again. What happens when we die? Is there a God? Questions that had lingered in the background of his mind for decades. He had once asked similar things as a boy, but over time, they got buried beneath engines, data, and spreadsheets. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done in years. He searched for books not about science or engineering, but about faith, philosophy, mortality. He read about ancient beliefs, about spiritual awakening, about the soul as a concept, not just a religious one, but a human one. And he talked to colleagues, friends, even strangers. He asked what they believed. "I think when we die," one person told him, "we become one with everything." Another said, "I think it's lights out, just nothing." A few said, "I know there's something after, I felt it." He didn't find a single answer that felt complete, but the act of asking felt important, like stretching muscles long unused. One evening, staring at the stars on his balcony, Elon realized something. He had spent his life reaching outward, toward planets, technology, and infinite futures. But now, for the first time in years, he was reaching inward. And maybe that was just as important. A few weeks later, Elon attended a private dinner hosted by a longtime friend, one of those intellectual evenings filled with scientists, entrepreneurs, and thinkers. It was the kind of event where people talked about quantum computing over dessert. As the night wore on, the conversation drifted toward existence itself. "Do you think there's meaning behind the universe?" someone asked. A few shrugged. One man laughed. "Meaning? We're carbon particles bouncing off each other, that's it." But not everyone agreed. A quiet older woman who had barely spoken all evening finally chimed in. "Mr. Musk," she said, "you've built rockets and sent people to space. But what do you feel when you look at the night sky?" The room quieted. Elon took a deep breath. "I feel small, but connected. I think we're meant to ask, even if we don't find." She smiled knowingly. Perhaps the search itself is sacred. Months passed. Elon found himself thinking of the little girl often. He hadn't asked her name, something he regretted. But her face, her words, they stayed with him. On a quiet Thursday afternoon, he returned to that hospital, not for a press stop, not for work, just to see. She was there, older by a year perhaps, but still unmistakably her. She saw him immediately. "You came back," she said, running up to him. "I did," he said, smiling. "Been thinking about you." "Really?" She beamed. "Really, about our talk." She tilted her head again. "Did you find the answer?" He chuckled. "No, but I think I found something just as important." "What's that?" "That the questions matter just as much." She nodded slowly. "Still scared sometimes," she admitted. "So do I," he said, "but that's part of being human." She reached out and hugged him. It was unexpected but deeply real. "Thank you," she whispered. Years went by. Elon continued to launch rockets, develop AI, invest in neural tech, but something in him had changed. In interviews, he spoke more softly when asked about life's bigger questions. He didn't pretend to have the answers. He mentioned her once, never by name, but said that a child had once asked him something so powerful that it shifted how he saw the world. And every so often, when life quieted, he'd return to that hospital. Sometimes she was there, sometimes not, but the memory was enough. Elon never became a preacher. He didn't abandon science, but his curiosity had widened. He learned that faith and reason were not enemies, that mystery wasn't failure, that the human need to search, to ask, to wonder, was perhaps the deepest engine of all. He often told others, "Don't be afraid to ask questions that have no answer." Because once, a little girl had asked him something that no lab could solve. And in that question, he'd found something better than certainty. He'd found meaning.